Hello everyone, this is Rig and today we are going to discuss about mature phase of Indus Valley civilization. In my last video, we have discussed about the early Harappan phase of Indus Valley civilization, which was the founding phase of Harappan civilization. Today we are going to discuss about few of the general features which are found in all the mature Harappan sites around the Indus Valley area. So without doing further delay, let's get into details. Now, what are the general features of mature Harappan phase? In this map, you can see the main mature Harappan sites and the rivers which are close by to it. So, at first, we will have to know what is the dynamic between urban and rural settlements in Harappan civilization. Majority of the people lived in rural areas and cities were very less common. It is just like today in India that most of the population, the working class and the farming population are situated in the villages, but the control has been kept in the cities. So similar to this, it was then also that majority of the people lived in the rural settlements, whereas only a few number of people lived in cities, and cities were the organizational factors of Indus Valley civilization. The urban artifacts are found in rural villages also. This proves that the rural villages around a particular city had major influence of the city in it. Urban and rural interaction facilitated cultural exchange. As we can understand that this is a civilization where communication was very much prevalent. Hence, urban and rural interaction facilitated the cultural exchange in between people. Estimate of ancient settlement is very much challenging because most of the ancient settlement do not survive till today, and even if it survives, modern people have occupied over it. Hence, it is very difficult to estimate the size and the range of influence of the cities of Harappan culture. Cities vary from small pastoral camps and also big cities. Next up, we have Harappan settlement sizes and distribution. Settlements, as we know, varied greatly in size. The largest settlements were Mohenjo-daro, which had an area greater than 200 hectares, and Harappa also had an area of about 150 hectares. The significant sites which are very large include Ganwadila with 81.5 hectare and Rakhigari with more than 80 hectares. Rakhigari is a site in Haryana which is still being excavated and is slowly proving to be one of the largest Harappan site in the Indian subcontinent and also in the Indus Valley. The largest sites are also found in Cholistan and Sindh regions. Cholistan and Sindh regions are mainly in Pakistan. These are desert provinces currently, and they are the core of Indus Valley civilization. Notable very large sites include Dholavira in Gujarat and Lierwala. What was the scale of Harappan sites in the mature Harappan phase? There was diversity in sizes, and sites varied from large cities to small campsites. There were temporary campsites made outside the cities for specific purpose in order to get raw materials or trading outpost. So if we consider them also, we will see that sizes of Harappan sites varied from large cities like Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and also to small campsites. Punjab has a large number of sites which are very large in area compared to other part of sites in other part of Indus Valley in India. Dhalewan has the largest site in Punjab, which is about 150 hectares. Other sites in Punjab also include Gurni Kalan, which is 144 hectares, and Hasanpur with about 100 hectares. Moderate sites serve as secondary urban centers. So just like we have big metropolitan cities surrounded by different other municipal cities, similarly before also during the Indus Valley phase, there were moderate sites around the large sites of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Smaller sites, which are the relatively smallest sites in the Indus Valley, are Amri, and their sizes range from 5 to 10 hectares, and there are a few sites which are even smaller than 1 hectare, and Amri is one such site. Now, what was the urban planning in the Harappan settlements? The urban planning Harappan settlements are mainly famous for their town planning. It has a very strict planned urban layout in the form of grids, and these grids are arranged in the cardinal directions, and no other areas, no other houses go out of the rule to break this sequence, to break this pattern. Hence the pattern in Harappan civilization is very much fixed, and this has been found in almost all the Harappan major sites. Streets and houses adhered to strict design principles, means they will not go out of the law. It seems like the city had a particular design, it had a particular format, and everyone who lived in the city had to go according to that format by following a specific set of rules. Varied sophistication was there in planning across different sites. Like in Mohenjo-daro, citadel was more sophisticated than the lower town. In Dholavira, the middle of the settlement was much more sophisticated than the boundary houses. Hence there was there was varied sophistication, but still there was a strict layout also. Mohenjo-daro and Kalibangan had more of a complex planning and design than other smaller cities. Okay, so Mohenjo-daro and Kalibangan, when we read about Kalibangan in our next video, we will discuss about few of the major Harappan sites. That time we will come to know that Kalibangan had a separate area for ritualistic purposes also, and Mohenjo-daro has a separate area for public buildings and public infrastructure. Hence their planning was much more different than the other smaller sites. Planning reflects that since there was a planning, there must have been a controlling central power. Hence, planning of a particular city in a particular format represents that there was a social and political organization that used to maintain all these things. Next up we have architectural layout of major Harappan cities. Here in the left hand side picture we can see the layout of Mohenjo-daro. It is a reconstructed image from the ruins that have been found in the area, and we know that there were raised citadels found in major cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. As we have said in our last video also, the citadels are places which used to be much more secured both in fortification and geographically. So they had to be built in an area which was much higher than the lower town. Hence they had raised platforms. Dholavira had a unique layout, which is it had a 3-tier settlement. So the entire settlement had 3 portions in it, and in the form of almost like concentric circles. Dholavira is the latest addition to World Heritage Sites from India. Settlements had distinct sections like citadel, middle town and lower town. So just the citadel was the uppermost part, middle town was lower than the citadel, and lower town was the lowermost part. It can be assumed that citadel was a place for storage of resources and public buildings, whereas middle town is the place where the elite people lived, and lower town was for the working class of people. Cities like Lothal, Surkatoda followed similar urban plans. So the cities in the area surrounding Gujarat had similar urban plannings. That is, it had a three-tier settlement. Like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa did not have a three-tier settlement, but their citadel was out of the lower town. But in Dholavira and Surkadora and other sites in the Gujarat area, they had a three-tier settlement where citadel was inside the lower town only, but much more secured, both geographically and military wise. Citadels were not within the main settlement in some cases. So this has been discussed. Just like in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, citadel was separated. It was not within the main settlement. You can see in the map of Mohenjo-daro, the reconstructed 3D image, you can see that citadel is on the western side of the town. Now, building materials and construction techniques. We have read about what kind of planning was there. Now we will read about what kind of materials were involved in those plannings. Use of mud brick was very much common. Reeds and in villages for building. So mud brick was used for construction of walls, and reeds were used to make thatched roofs for shelter. So mud brick houses, typical mud brick houses was there in Harappan rural economy. Towns and cities predominantly used baked bricks. Since the town had much more resources, they used baked bricks for construction of buildings. Stone was also occasionally used in foundations and in drains. So this is very much important. The sanitation we will discuss later, sanitation of Harappan civilization. But for now, let us see how stones were used for the foundations in drains. Stones are waterproof. If we use mud, sun-baked bricks in drains, then it will melt away, it will weather away with the effect of water. But if we use stones, then it will not weather away and it will give a much more long-lasting structure. Hence, it was used for foundations in drains and also foundations in buildings. Extensive use of dressed stones in fortifications of Kutch, fortifications in Kutch and Saurashtra area. So in the southwestern part of Harappan civilization, we found extensive use of dressed stones. Now what are dressed stones? Dressed stones are typical stones used in buildings which have been modified or cut to suit the needs of specific portion of walls. So suppose there is a curved area in a wall and you have a square stone, so you will cut the stone in such a manner that it fits inside the wall and fits the purpose. So those are the purpose of dressed stones, and dressed stones, use of dressed stones has been found in Gujarat area, in Kutch and Saurashtra. Dholavira and other sites feature distinctive stone pillars. When we will discuss about Dholavira, we will learn that stone pillars were important feature of this site. Next up we have Harappan masonry and standardization. So what kind of work did the blacksmith used to do, the masons used to do? The people who used to construct the buildings, they had a few set of rules. Grid system in city planning showcased urban Harappan design. So as we have discussed, there was grid system in town planning, and those grids were arranged in cardinal direction. Roads in cities were straight, indicated sophisticated surveying. They did not construct houses, they did not construct roads or any other structures wherever they needed. They constructed them according to the rules. Hence it can be said that the whole city was founded based on a previously made design. The city did not came into being suddenly, but it was built according to strict plan and regulations. Settlements were laid out with regard to cardinal directions. Cardinal direction means the roads, the buildings all had north, south, east and west kind of planning. So they had specific straight patterns in which we can see that cardinal direction played a vital role. This proves the importance of prominent surveying and proper regulation. Distinct planning approach despite varying settlement sizes. So even though the settlement sizes varied from place to place and they were far away from each other, but still the planning approach, that is the grid type city planning and planning according to the cardinal direction, these were a common feature. These were common features in almost all the Harappan sites. This tells us that there was a specific controlling organization. Architectural planning reflected the civilization's organizational capabilities. There was a controlling there was a controlling entity, there was a controlling power or government that regulated the planning in all the major Harappan cities. Next up we have the residential structures in Harappan sites. Houses in Mohenjo-daro were typically 2 stories high. This is the typical feature of houses in Mohenjo-daro in the mature Harappan phase. Walls thickness indicates that there was multiple floors. Today if you see a wall, the 2-story houses in Mohenjo-daro, it will not survive till today. But if we see the foundation thickness of the walls, we can assume that it had much more weight upon it. That means there was 2-story houses. Floors made up of hard packed earth, roofs of reeds and clay. Probably there was a plaster in the floors also, which has withered away due to erosion. These are thousands of years old, so it is highly impossible. It is almost not possible for the sites to survive intactly as it was 4000 years ago. Hence, floors made up of packed earth has been found and roofs made up of reeds and clay has been found. Wooden and mat made doors with sometimes decorative carvings. So doors were made up of wooden and mats, and it also had a sense of fashion in it in the form of decorative carvings. Windows had shutters and lattice work for light and air. So for percolation of air and proper ventilation, the windows had shutters in them so that air can pass through freely. Now Harappan household features. There was presence of carved alabaster and marble in wealthier homes. This proves that there was an economic disparity. There were rich people who had access to more fine resources. Hence, there was presence of alabaster and marble in large houses in wealthier homes. These houses mainly were present in citadels and also in middle town areas of 3-tier settlements like Dholavira. Small homes possibly were for working class or for the people who worked as servants of the upper class people. Larger houses had inner rooms and bathrooms also. So this is one very much important feature of Harappan settlements, that the larger houses had inner bathrooms and rooms within rooms also. Use of bathing platforms and drains were there for sanitation. So bathing platforms were there in sometimes inside the houses only, and the water outlet had been done in the forms of drains. Toilets were identified in many Harappan sites, showing that people had a very advanced sense of sanitation and hygiene. Now, we will go into details about Harappan sanitation and drainage. Toilets ranged from simple holes to elaborate system. So, throughout the Harappan sites, we can see that there was importance paid to proper sanitation. There were toilets which were in the form of simple holes in the ground, and also there were toilets which had terracotta pipes with elaborate and complex sanitation facilities. Waste disposal, how were the waste, bio waste disposed? It included pots with holes for seepage into the ground. So these functioned as urinals or commodes in the form of pots or holes in the ground. Regular cleaning of toilet was done and drains by specific workers. So to maintain this kind of complex sanitation system, it can be assumed that there were a people who had devoted for this specific purpose of cleaning the sanitation functionalities. Hence there was regular cleaning done. Streets and lanes were designed for efficient drainage. There were drains on the sides of road which carried the water or the waste products away from the city. Separate drains were there for sewage and rainwater collection. So rainwater collection and human sewage drainage had separate systems. This proves how advanced were the Harappan people in the form in the case of technology and engineering. Now, water management in Harappan civilization. Drains and water chutes were integral part of Harappan system. Water chutes are the things from which water comes out. So drains and water chutes were very much common in the Harappan civilization, and this was unlike any of the contemporary civilizations of Mesopotamia and Egypt. Many streets had well organized drainage system. So drains used to run parallelly along the side of the streets, and they had a very organized drainage system. Covered drains were also there that ran alongside the houses. So people were so much conscious about hygiene that they used to cover the drainage also to prevent any kind of foul smell or infections. Large scale water storage facilities were there, which were in the form of reservoirs and wells. Were very much common. So the and as we have read before, the rainwater harvesting was also a prominent feature. So all these sites, they were prone to floods, and also sometimes they had dry spells throughout the year. So water was a very precious economic resource for the people here, and so wells and reservoirs had to be maintained properly, and there were people for maintenance of all those things. Regular maintenance of water systems were practiced. As we can see that there was elaborate system for sanitation and water preservation, therefore we can understand that there were people who used to maintain them. Now, Harappan hygiene and bathing facilities. Harappans made elaborate arrangements for bathing, and how were they? Importance to personal cleanliness in Harappan culture can be seen from the elaborate arrangements they made for bathing. There were specific sites, there were specific pools in Mohenjo-daro, the Great Bath. In Harappa also there was a bath. So in major sites of Harappa, they had a specific area for bathing. It may have been for daily use or for ritualistic use, but we can understand that Harappans paid a special importance to personal hygiene, and so there was a separate place dedicated solely for the purpose of bathing. Bathing areas were sometimes set on raised platforms. So bathing areas had been found in raised platforms of both Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. In Mohenjo-daro we call it the Great Bath, which we will discuss later when we will discuss about the site in detail. But for now we can know that the bathing platforms were made, or the pools were made on raised platforms. So bringing water to the raised platform was a technology technological challenge of the people from those times, but people had so much advancement in regulation of drainage system that they were capable of bringing water into a raised platform and storing it, and also regularly cleaning it for maintenance. Frequent use of wells and rivers were there for daily water needs. Most of the Harappan sites are situated near or close by to major Indus rivers and its tributaries. So frequent use of wells were there, and rivers were also used for daily economic needs. Bathing and hygiene practices suggest that there was a sophisticated lifestyle within the people of Harappa. Now, what were the civic amenities of the Harappan people? Harappan's cities had complex sewage systems. Sewage chutes built into the walls indicated advanced planning. So sometimes the sewage pipes were concealed inside the walls of the buildings. This is very much advanced system, and it is not even found in many of the modern houses. So we can understand how technologically advanced they were, that they had the engineering capability to construct drainage pipes within the walls, and terracotta pipes were also used for the purpose. Now wastewater were collected in cesspits, showing environmental consideration. They did not use to dump the waste here and there. They had proper waste collection system in the form of cesspits, showing that they valued the environment more than we do today. Regular maintenance of public sanitation system, as we have discussed before, and there were specific people for the purpose. Harappan emphasis on public health reflected in city planning. So these were highly sophisticated people who were very much conscious environmentally, and also personal hygiene had very much advanced had become very much advanced in the Harappan time, and this was reflected in their planning of the whole city. The whole city was planned in such a way that they had very much good personal hygiene, and they were not open to any kind of waste related infections. Now, Harappan sanitation infrastructure, communal and private toilets indicated a focus on public health. So there were toilets which everyone used, and there were toilets which were there inside the houses for private use. Solid waste management involving cesspits and regular cleaning was there. Drainage systems efficiently separated storm water from wastewater. So as we have said, that there were separate drainage systems dedicated for rainwater conservation and wastewater outlet. Archaeological evidence of sloping channels and terracotta piping. Now pipes were there made of terracotta, which used to carry out the wastewater outside the city premises, just like we have plastic or PVC pipes right now in our society. There were terracotta pipes in the Indus Valley civilization. Harappan commitment to cleanliness evident in archaeological records. All this archaeological records with proper drainage. Even today the drains are preserved in perfect condition, and the covering of the drains are also found even today in the ruins of Harappan sites. This indicated how clean and sophisticated the people of Harappan civilization were. Harappan water resource management. Wells and reservoirs demonstrate advanced water conservation. Frequent references to wells are there at multiple sites, signifying their importance, and wells were probably used for by the whole community for regular water purpose. Harappans likely utilized the rivers and tanks for water supply. Tanks were constructed mainly outside the city premises sometimes, because inside the city premises there were no place for tanks, and so those tanks functioned as the rainwater conservation facilities. Evidence of water being a precious resource has been seen in almost all of the Harappan sites, and so it was managed very carefully. The provision of water at Harappa suggests organized urban planning and also existence of upper organization. Now, Harappan emphasis to cleanliness. Importance of cleanliness reflected in the provision of bathing facilities. Archaeological finds in the Harappan sites indicate that there was routine water management and waste disposal, and this indicates to the probability that there must have been specific working class dedicated for the sole purpose of sanitation. Terracotta pipes were used, which highlight the technological advancement of the people. Regular cleaning of drains to prevent clogging and disease were done. Civic amenities like toilets and baths point to a culture valuing hygiene. So in this video we have learned that Harappans had very well planning system. The range of sites in various Harappan areas varied, even though they had a central controlling authority, and that controlling authority can be seen in the town planning, the commonalities of town planning. Harappan people also paid very much attention to personal hygiene, and that is reflected in the archaeological records such as covered drains, proper waste management system, and they also valued water resources. That can be seen in the ways they harvested the water in the form of water tanks and wells. So that was all about today's video. In the next video, it is going to be a bit longer than all other videos combined. That is because in the next video we are going to discuss about major Harappan sites, how was their planning, what are the important artifacts found there, and how are they important in the context of Harappan culture. We are going to discuss about major Harappan sites. So stay tuned, and as always support me so that I can bring more detailed content in the future. Thank you.